Coco Gauff finally lifts lid on the sudden coaching change ahead of the US Open. Coco Gauff has shed light on her sudden decision to part ways with coach Matt Daley only days before the US Open. Daley had worked with her for 10 months, and their split surprised many in the tennis world. Gauff has now teamed up with Gavin McMillan, alongside longtime mentor Jean-Christophe Forel. Her time with Daley brought notable success. She lifted titles at the China Open, the WTA Finals, and captured her second Grand Slam singles trophy at the French Open in June. But recent struggles with her serve raised concern. At the Canadian Open, she hit a career-high 23 double faults against Danielle Collins. A week later in Cincinnati, she produced 16 double faults in a quarter-final loss to Jasmine Paolini, which became Daley's final match as her coach. Gauff said in her pre-tournament US Open press conference, "It was like a very sudden decision. Gavin became available. I just felt this was the best decision for my game at least, and I had to go with what I was feeling. I think Matt is a great coach and a great person and 100% love working with him. Yeah, I mean, we obviously had a very successful partnership, but I'm just looking at long term." In New York, Gauff was seen training with McMillan, who is recognized for his work with Aryna Sabalenka. Speaking before her Flushing Meadows campaign, she admitted her choice to change her team was made quickly. Gauff stressed that she did not want to waste time, even with a Grand Slam so close. History shows that coaching shifts have often sparked strong runs in her career. The addition of Brad Gilbert in 2023 led to victories in Washington, Cincinnati, and her first US Open title in the same summer. Later, her partnership with Daley delivered more big trophies. Now, with McMillan in her corner, Gauff hopes the timing of another bold change will pay off. Coco Gauff involved in the battle for world number 1 ranking. The WTA No. 1 ranking is at stake at the 2025 US Open, with Coco Gauff and Iga Swiatek both in position to challenge Aryna Sabalenka. Swiatek recently overtook Gauff for the No. 2 ranking after winning her first Cincinnati title, but both women will focus on the bigger goal in New York, the top spot. This year's US Open also sets a record with $5 million awarded to the singles champion. Gauff enters the tournament ranked third with 7,874 points. She will lose 230 points from last year's fourth-round run. To become No. 1 for the first time, Gauff must win the title and hope Sabalenka falls before the quarterfinals. Since she begins ahead of Swiatek in the live rankings, the American can also move back to No. 2 if she equals or betters Swiatek's result before the final. Swiatek holds 7,933 points but will drop 430 from last year's quarterfinal finish. For her to reclaim the No. 1 position she once held for 125 weeks, she needs to win the US Open and see Sabalenka lose before the quarterfinals. Swiatek has said rankings are not her main focus, but a deep run in New York could put her back at the top. Sabalenka remains the favorite to keep her ranking. She begins with 9,225 points once her 2023 champions total of 2,000 drops. The Belarusian only needs to reach the quarterfinals to ensure she stays No. 1. Having lifted at least 1 slam title in each of the past 2 years, she will look to defend her crown in New York and extend her reign at the top. Coco Gauff adds to American history at the US Open. The US Open women's draw is headlined by the last 3 champions, who hold the top 3 seeds in New York. Defending winner Aryna Sabalenka takes the No. 1 spot, 2022 champion Iga Swiatek is seeded second, and 2023 titleholder Coco Gauff is No. 3. Gauff leads a strong American presence inside the top 10. She is joined by Jessica Pegula at No. 4, Madison Keys at No. 6, Amanda Anisimova at No. 8, and Emma Navarro at No. 10. Pegula shares the top half of the draw with Sabalenka, creating the chance of a semi-final rematch. Rounding out the top 10 are Mira Andreeva of Russia at No. 5, Italy's Jasmine Paolini at No. 7, and Kazakhstan's Elena Rybakina at No. 9. Sabalenka opens against Rebecca Mazarova of Switzerland, while Swiatek begins her campaign against Colombia's Emiliana Arango. Gauff faces Ajla Tomiljanovic, the Australian who ended Serena Williams' career in 2022. Veteran Venus Williams received a wild card into the tournament. The 45-year-old drew a challenging opener against Karolina Muchova, the No. 11 seed from the Czech Republic. Muchova has reached the semifinals in each of the past 2 US Opens, making it a daunting task for the former champion. For weeks, the whispers swirled through locker rooms, press conferences, and social media feeds. Why had Coco Gauff, America's brightest tennis star, suddenly parted ways with her coach just before the year's final Grand Slam? The timing seemed reckless, even reckless by the standards of a sport notorious for quick divorces between player and coach. But when Gauff finally addressed the situation herself, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. A decision born in silence. When Gauff walked into the pre-US Open press room, there was no trace of hesitation. She had been trained in answering tough questions since her teenage debut, but this time her tone was different, measured, vulnerable, and unapologetically her own. "People think it was sudden," she began, "but honestly, it wasn't sudden for me. It was a feeling that had been building for months." She explained that the relationship with her coach, Matt Daley, had simply reached its natural end. Nothing dramatic, no fiery confrontation. "I just woke up one morning and realized I needed a new perspective. I've grown a lot in the past year, and I needed my tennis to grow with me." For Gauff, that meant turning to a specialist in biomechanics. Someone who could fine-tune her movement, her serve, her efficiency on court. To outsiders, it looked like a gamble. To her, it was clarity. The element of timing. The question that most journalists hurled at her was about timing. Why now? Why risk shaking up the very foundation of her preparation on the eve of the US Open? Gauff leaned forward, choosing her words carefully. "I know it looks crazy from the outside. But growth doesn't care about calendars. If I had waited until after the Open, it would have been me playing safe. And that's not who I am." It was an answer that revealed the steel beneath her composure. The timing wasn't reckless, it was deliberate. She was willing to risk short-term turbulence for long-term transformation. Learning from history. Gauff is not the first champion to take such a risk. Andre Agassi famously rebooted his career by rebuilding his fitness and technique mid-season. Serena Williams once shifted her coaching setup just before Wimbledon and went on to dominate. The difference, of course, is that Gauff is only 21. Every move she makes is scrutinized with a magnifying glass of potential. But Gauff herself seemed unfazed by the comparisons. "I've studied the careers of the greats," she said. "What I've learned is that they weren't afraid to evolve. I want to be the same."